There's something powerful about understanding your voice. We all have that voice. We have an internal voice that lets us know what we need to articulate, what we want to share. But then there's part of that voice that says it brings identity to who we are. We live in a day and age where people want to stifle and make us suppress our voice. And our voice is our truth. We must articulate our voice. That's the key to change. One of the key things that I've learned throughout my career and out creating conversation and discourse is that if you want to change the direction of a thing, you want to change the conversation. And you also, if you're going to change the conversation, then we must change who joins it. We must change who articulates their voice. Your voice is so critical and it's so important that you understand the value of the voice that's inside of you and what it is in terms of your ideas, your perspectives, and your life experiences and insights, including all the failures, including all of the challenges, that you can begin to understand the power and the potency of your voice. Now let's break down, what do I mean when I say your voice? Because if we're going to experience change, not just internal change and external change around us in our atmospheres, our environments, but also when we want to see change and transformation in the world that we live in, it starts with a word. It starts with what we think. It starts with how we communicate that voice. Your voice, first of all, is definitive. There's something special and something original and authentic about your voice. Nobody else has your voice. Nobody else has the capacity that's in your voice. Your voice is maximum you. It is a vintage relic that's been in your spirit for many years. Even before you came on this earth, your voice was going to be prepared to emerge. That voice is your spirit. That voice is your soul. That voice is your imagination. It is your memories. It contains your affections and your emotions. Even our reasoning capacity is revealed in our voice. And then, of course, our conscience. The conscience speaks to us. And so when we begin to understand our voice is definitive, then we will never allow a so-called dominant culture, an oppressive culture, an oppressive mindset, or even the herd mentality or groupthink to dominate and to define our voice. When you know that your voice is definitive, then once you move into that place of definition, nothing else will define you. You'll be able to look at your distractions and say, I know that's a distraction because I know my internal voice. I know what it is that I have been created to be and to do. I know what it is I need to speak and I need to release into this world that I'm in now. Our voices are definitive. Not only is our voice definitive, it is also distinctive. There's something about when you hear possibly a child laugh, or if you're a parent or an aunt or uncle, you'll hear that child's voice and there's something distinctive about a person's voice. We also know in the voiceover industry, there's certain voices that do commercials very well. They may read something and do a read over or a voiceover, and their voice becomes distinctive, sometimes for villainy, sometimes for humor. Your voice has a distinctiveness that is only yours. It's a little different than definitive. Now let's break this down, because when things are definitive, that brings definition. When things are distinctive, that reveals an originality. And in that originality, that's where we begin to release the creativity and the innovation that only we possess. So we must understand, not only is our voice definitive, but also our voice is distinctive. Why are we talking so much about voice now? Because we're in a day and age where we live in a soundbite world. There's a lot of clips and social ads and political ads and social media postings and all these different feeds that we're getting from different venues and different types of expression. And we want to make sure that our voices, that your voice remains definitive and it remains distinctive. Because once you lose your definition, then somebody else will provide that definition for you. Once you lose your distinctiveness, then somebody else will want to create a world where their voice becomes distinctive instead of yours. So let's recap here. We've got your voice as being what? Definitive. Your voice is distinctive. Number 3, your voice is also descriptive. Now, what's the difference here? When we describe something, there's 2 words that's in descriptive or to describe something. When we describe it, that means that we use our voice, we use our words to build a picture. We use our words to create a world where people understand what we're trying to say and what we're communicating. Your voice can describe the world that you're living in. And when you describe it based upon the internal voice that's inside of you, you're adding your measure and your treasure to the actual world that we live in. This global village is made of everyone. And everyone that's in the global village, the national village, the local village, the state village, has value. And we want to encourage them to contribute their descriptive voice to the table. Well, what if they don't invite me to the table? Well, you know what? We create it through our own words. We create that definitive measure. We create that distinctiveness. We create that descriptive measure. And when you and I begin to release the power of words, words have created wars. Words have created documents that we sign. Words have created government documentations. We have contracts and covenants based upon the words that we say. It is important that you and I bring our descriptive voice to the table, because inherent in that is the power for further creation. And then other generations, they begin to benefit from the power of that description. We don't let anyone else define us or describe us or even marginalize our distinctiveness when we use the power of our descriptive voice. We must be people who embrace that, and that brings change. What else do we want to share concerning our voices? Well, I'd like to also share that our voice is directive. So we've got descriptive, we've got definitive, we've got distinctive, but it's also directive. Your voice will bring direction to your life. Voices of mentors, voices of others who have helped you, who've poured into you, as we would say. In other words, when I say pour into you, imagine an empty glass, and in that empty glass that we see here, there's a pouring out of someone else's trustworthy voice, guidance, wisdom, knowledge, experiences, idiosyncrasies, proclivities, weaknesses, whatever it might be. That's why it's important for us to understand our history, understand our heritage, because when we get that, we get our definitive direction, and our life becomes a directive. We can even give directives. We can use our command and command our day, command our week. We can direct our focus. We can take all the descriptive aspects of who we are, all the definitive aspects of who we are, all of the distinctive aspects of who we are, and then we can bring lastly the directive. That directive says, this is where my life is going. This is where we are going collectively. Imagine if everyone understood his or her voice. Imagine if everyone on the globe understood the power of his or her voice, their national voice, their global voice, and that every single person has a distinctiveness that's inside of them. Everyone has a descriptive measure that doesn't come from anyone else. It comes from them understanding the value of their creative mandate. When we get an understanding of what that really looks like and what that really means, then that's one way we can experience change that matters. Again, folks, use the power of your voice. Generation, use the power of your voice. Business owners, entrepreneurs, artists, business leaders, family leaders, fathers, mothers, teachers, administrators, use the power of your voice. Look inside and make sure that you understand the definitive nature of who you are, of what you bring to the table. Many times people will say, what do you have to offer? Why? They may not say it exactly like that, but their actions towards you, some of the things that we're seeing in our national setting right now, local elections, political advertisements and advertising, all these other aspects. And in the midst of all of this information, disinformation, and information overload, we could lose the distinctiveness of our own voice. And once we lose that distinctiveness, then we lose the value of what we bring. This is the moment for us to be able to embrace our voice. So if you're going to experience change that matters, real change that matters, find your voice, fulfill it, be fruitful in it. I'm Patrick Brown, your change architect.